Hey, smugglings, what is happening? So this is going to be a review for Gladiator, the first one, and this is going to be a part of a series I do where I talk about some of my favorite movies. So that is what this is going to be a part of. I think it's going to be called Smoggy Selects or Smog Seal of Approval. It's going to be one of those, I think. As cheesy as they are, I think it's probably going to be one of those, and that's what that is going to be. Just a series where I talk about some of my favorite movies, and I think because of the fact that the sequel just came out, I reviewed the sequel. I would like to talk about the original movie because of how great it is, because of how much I love it, because of how much I hold it very dear, and that's what I'm going to do with this one. So, introducing the film stars Russell Crowe, of course, star-making performance, some would say. Did quite a lot before this in terms of the cinema he did in Australia with Romper Stomper, the film that got him a lot of attention in the early 90s, and then did The Quick and the Dead, LA Confidential, The Insider, which is another really amazing film. And this was the role that sort of cemented him as the actor that we know today and the powerhouse that he became. And obviously got the accolades for it to show for it, so that is well deserved. That is. And we got Russell Crowe, we got Richard Harris as the father figure to Maximus, who is Marcus Aurelius, and then also got Joaquin Phoenix as the son Commodus, and Connie Nielsen as Lucilla, who's the love interest within the film, and we learn about a lot about her throughout the film as well, which is really cool. And all performances are brilliant in this film, and that's actually quite interesting because it is a big part of why the film works. Because I would actually argue the writing isn't the best, but we will get into that a bit more when we talk about the film. But those are the principal cast members, and we've also got Oliver Reed as the slave master who's sort of gathering these gladiators and is sort of in it for himself within the film initially. So we do have him as well. But those are the main players within the plot. And begin the film with Maximus, Russell Crowe. We're in the place called Vindobona, which is the place the Germanic tribes are in. And we're on the last stronghold in 180 AD, Roman Republic, been a republic for over 100 years, and Maximus is on the last leg of the military campaign ordered by Marcus Aurelius, and he's looking forward to going home. And he is within the battlefield and anticipating the battle that is going to happen. And I love the way this film starts. It starts with him interacting with the wildlife. He sees a bird, and you see this soulful warrior interacting with the wildlife, and adds a lot of dimensions to Maximus because he's not just a power-hungry, warmongering barbarian. He really does have a soul. You can see he's not a true warrior at heart. Even though he demonstrates amazing skills with the blade, he yearns for a different life away from the battlefield, and you can see that there's something waiting for him back home. And the film communicates that so well through the imagery, through the acting, through the music, and not necessarily through the dialogue, always, which I would argue is the weakest part of this film. It's sometimes very poetic, a little bit convoluted at times as well. But the funny thing is, it doesn't really matter because the performances are so good, the actors are so emotive, and they communicate the feelings so well throughout the film that it doesn't really matter. And that's the amazing magic trick this film pulls off, is just the magnetic concoction of the amazing performances, the music, and the production design. It all makes it such an incredible film without the need for the best and most well-written dialogue. It's serviceable, it's not terrible, but it just doesn't hit you the same way that other aspects of the film do. And that is completely fine. So he's on the last leg of this campaign. He's looking forward to going home. Battle is ended. There's a victory for Maximus and Marcus Aurelius, and you can see the kinship between them. You can see that Marcus Aurelius is a father figure to Maximus. You can clearly see that they have a strong bond together, and there's a lot of history there with them. And Marcus Aurelius makes a surprise gesture towards Maximus and asks him to step in as the regent emperor in his stead after he passes, as he believes he's getting old and he's not going to be able to do it for very long, which is quite sad. And this is a gift that he's bestowing upon Maximus, and Maximus is very reticent to accept that at first. And you can see the hesitation in his face. And what does this mean for Commodus, who's anticipating being the emperor? This young man that has waited his whole life to rule over Rome and believes his father's going to hand it off to him, but instead his father doesn't give it to him. And he's obviously pissed, that is, because what happened? This is my birthright. You just took it away from me, just took away his birthright. And Marcus Aurelius is killed by the hands of Commodus. Maximus is blamed for this. He's sentenced to be executed. He escapes, returns to his family, and then finds them dead. And they've been killed by members of the Roman army that Commodus have sent to his home. And really tragic, really sad scene that plays out there, and very emotional. Multiple times I cried in this movie. I'm very emotional at certain movies, and this movie is very emotional. It's one of the things I think that the sequel lacked, I'd say. And I think a large part of that is the fact that Russell Crowe and his performance are really amazing in this movie. He has such a wide range. You can see the animalistic, murderous side of him when he's taking vengeance on his family, and you can also see the softer, more soulful side that is in him. My laptop just fell. I'm sorry about that, guys. That's all that is. It's on a box at the minute, waiting for my desk to be ordered, man. So this is the equipment that we're working with. High tech production design akin to Gladiator. Really awesome. And I've also got notes here, so I am looking at my notes. So I do apologize if I look away from you guys for a second because I'm just gathering my thoughts there. But that is when the film really starts. Is when Maximus has found his family dead. He's got nothing really to live for in this life apart from vengeance for them against Commodus for what he's done. And he collapses from exhaustion and he's taken by slave traders. And that is when the quest for vengeance begins. The popularity rises. The notice is given to Maximus as this really powerful idol of the Roman people, this person that galvanizes the Roman people and really excites them. And he becomes a star in the gladiatorial arena. And this is obviously noticed by Commodus and members of the Senate. And this is where the central conflict of the film comes in, and the tension and the political intrigue of Lucilla, Maximus's love interest, the sister to Commodus, being there, being held hostage essentially and prisoner in the city of Rome. And that's what this movie is. And there's a lot more dialogue, a lot more quiet moments in this film compared to the sequel. And and I do apologize, guys. I'm comparing this to the sequel. It's just because I've just seen it, and you really start to take notice of this. It doesn't make the sequel worse in my mind. It just really makes me realize how impressive a piece of work this is. Definitely the most emotional film that Ridley Scott has ever done, I'd say, and I've seen the vast majority of his filmography. I think bar from two films I haven't seen just yet, but I will most likely cover them on this channel. And it's really impressive what he's able to accomplish here. And there's no one else that could have been Maximus, and I think that's the greatest strength of him playing this role, is that he brings such a unique range and such an emotion and such a powerful athleticism as well, because he obviously has to look convincing in these scenes where he's fighting all these big guys in this gladiator arena, and it's always him, of course. There's stuntmen involved as well, and that is to be expected. But he's very convincing in the scenes that you do see him, you do see his face in them, and it's really impressive what all the cast and crew were able to accomplish here. And a very old-fashioned sort of movie. Swords and Sandals epics weren't really popular during the time this came out. This sort of reignited that interest in those types of movies. Then subsequently, we would see films like Troy and Clash of the Titans and other massive Swords and Sandals epics like this, and sort of became an iconic film and the second highest grossing film of 2000, and beaten by Mission Impossible 2 of all fucking movies. Mission Impossible 2. And I like Mission Impossible 2. It's complete shit, but I like it. Right? It's still got its charms, but it's a shit movie. But that's what nostalgia does. Nostalgia gives you these rose-tinted glasses for certain films. We can still acknowledge that they're shit, but I love all the Mission Impossibles, and that's not going to be anything that changed. But we're talking about Gladiator, so that's the basic sort of outline of the film. The way the film starts is that we're on this quest for vengeance. It is a revenge film, and it's really powerfully done. And I'm not really going to be talking about the way I usually talk about these films, where I do the bad first and then go to the good, because after just seeing it recently, I can't think of much bad. Like, this is such an amazing movie, such a powerful movie, and it's what I love about movies, quite honestly, the way that they really speak to you and the way that they can be so emotional, the way that you can be so invested in characters that you've only known for 2 hours and a half, the way you can form a bond with them throughout that period of time. That's the strength of a really great movie and a magic of movies. That is something that's so magical, because other mediums can affect you in other ways, like video games and books. I've grown attached to characters, but the effect from movies is so much more profound in a lot of ways for me personally. And I always get really emotionally invested when it's done right in movies, when you love the characters and you believe in the world. And that's another thing we're going to be talking about. The world of this movie is really amazing. It feels so authentic. Ridley Scott like built all these giant sets of this film, and you can definitely tell the money that went into it, because you really need it for this film to make it convincing. And he talks about the fact he makes a lot of things in the film that would be considered artistic license, like he has cafes and restaurants, which they did not have in Rome during the second century AD, but because everything looks so authentic, you think it's accurate because of the authenticity of it. And I don't really care about that. I don't really care about it being accurate. I'm not looking for accuracy in a film. I'd watch a documentary if I was looking for accuracy, and I hate that complaint that people have for certain historical films where it's not accurate, it's not the way it was. Well, that's not what the film's trying to do. That's not what a job of a film is. It's not the job of a film to accurately retell the events. It's the job of the film to strike a chord with you and be entertaining and do a lot of different things that are apart from accuracy. And as the world is so genuine and it feels so fully realized, it's a massive character within the film. The city of Rome is alive and really well done. A lot of this is down to Ridley Scott, and it's funny because you look at Ridley Scott and you listen to him in interviews. He's not really an emotional person, but this is a very emotional movie, and he's a very cold person when you hear him speak on various topics. If you look at his interviews, he's really amusing, and the director's commentary for Gladiator is one of the most amazing pieces of director's commentary I've ever listened to. It's so much fun because it is Russell Crowe and Ridley Scott speaking to each other, shooting the shit, just basically pointing out the mistakes in the film, which is hilarious and it's so entertaining. Really great that is, and the film is such a miracle because the script wasn't even written fully when they started shooting. It was not completed, and the film just completely changes when you're watching it. And I am going to be talking about spoilers here if you didn't know, guys, but you should have seen Gladiator by now. And if not, I hope I've convinced you to see it because everyone else on the planet has probably seen it. And that is what is the case with that. And the film completely changed throughout the production. They were initially going to have a massive battle near the end where Maximus is freed from the city of Rome. He finds his old soldiers that were in his battalion that served under him when he was a military commander, and they were going to return to Rome and lay siege on the city and have a massive battle. But due to budgetary constraints, they ended up having Maximus being taken hostage and captive by Commodus, and they fight in the gladiatorial arena. So that reduced the cost of the movie significantly and allowed the film to be complete. And it would have been really expensive to have the massive battle in the city of Rome. And I really do prefer, I think, the way they handled it. I don't think I would have liked it as much if they'd had a massive battle. I really think that it becomes more personal when it's Maximus and Commodus fighting each other individually. I think it's really powerful. And like I said, multiple moments this movie made me cry, or quite honestly, it really did. And I absolutely love that movies. That's just such a powerful thing when it's done right. And the biggest sort of moment in the film, arguably, is Maximus's death, the death of Maximus. And the film delves into a lot of mystical and mythical moments where you see the Elysium, you see the land of the dead, this afterlife that is what all the soldiers are trying to get to in their lives. It's what sort of drives them. And I think that's the part of the film that doesn't really get mentioned enough. The part that is the afterlife is quite a big part in the film, and I was afraid they'd lean into that a lot more in the sequel, where you'd have visions of this beautiful Elysium, this land of the afterlife, which is basically those you see those blades of grass being touched by Maximus as he's walking through the field, and that's essentially what you see most of the time. And it's really powerfully done. It's basically just got a filter that is slightly darker than the movie, and it's got a blue tinge to it, and it's a series of fields, and it looks amazing. It's really well done. It's not done with a lot of visual effects, and it's really subtle, and it looks great, I think, and I think it's really well done. And that is what I can say about everything else about the movie is that it is really well done. And one of the other ideas I want to touch on in the film is the fact that the driving force for Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, is that he wants Roman Empire to be a republic again. He wants that restoration to a time where he thought it was better. And that is something that's really interesting because it's what Maximus is trying to achieve as well. And in some ways, the conclusion to this film would be more hopeful if the sequel wasn't there because you'd think they'd be closer to the Roman Republic, the restoration of the dream of Rome that they talk about in the film so much that should be realized. They talk about the dream of Rome, which is so delicate that you have to whisper it, otherwise it'll evaporate. And that's one of the best pieces of dialogue in the film. I think I love that idea because it makes it sound like something like the Force, very mystical, mysterious. material that keeps the universe together, and I love the way they talk about it, and they don't dwell on it too much. It's a part of the film, but it doesn't overshadow the film. It's not constantly being said that Rome must be a republic, it must go back to the way it was. It's not constantly said, but the fact that that idea is planted within the film is really good, and it really does add to the motivation for Maximus and Marcus Aurelius because they have that bond, and Maximus obviously learned a lot from Marcus Aurelius, so it's cool that they have that bond together. And I'm going to be a bit over the place with this review because this is one of my favorite movies, and I think with the movies that are some of my favorites, I'm not obviously going to be talking about much bad in the movie. There will be some favorite movies where I'll talk about some that things that are bad, but there's really not much I can say that is bad about this movie. I really do think it is an extraordinary film, a really great classic historical epic drama that has a really strong protagonist, a really strong antagonist. I will say that Commodus is one of the best villains in movie history, I believe. I think he's absolutely amazing. And Joaquin Phoenix was very young when he did this, and what a great performance for one of your earliest roles. The fact that he played Commodus in Gladiator, he played a Roman emperor at that stage in his career was really great, and a sign that he was going to be a really great actor moving forward. So, got to give a big kudos to him for really giving a powerful performance as Commodus. And this son that feels like he's lost his father and lost the love of his father. And he's always wanted to have the love of his father, but never able to achieve it due to his lack of courage and childishness and insubordination and his erratic nature. And it all really adds to the powerful nature of the film. I think I have pretty much talked about everything I loved in the film, and there's nothing really bad I can say about the movie. Like I said, the dialogue is probably the weakest aspect of the film, but it sort of fades away when the performances are so good, and because of the fact that the actors are delivering the lines with such conviction. I didn't say that word right. I'll say it again. Conviction, and they will often overshadow the lack of quality in the writing due to the gestures that they make. They'll touch someone's face, they'll express an emotion that won't be expressed through the dialogue. And it really is amazing what they've done there. And this is probably one of my favorite, well, it obviously is one of my favorite Ridley Scott films, and I would say it might be my favorite. I do adore Alien very much. A lot of people that know me know I love Alien as well, and Alien is something I adore very much, and I probably will speak about that. Probably will speak about that. No, I definitely will speak about that in an upcoming review of favorite movies because that is one of my favorites. So that is what is going to be done about that. And yeah, that is pretty much the stuff I want to talk about with Gladiator. I will say as well that the score by Hans Zimmer is fantastic and one of the best scores of all time. I think the track Now We Are Free is one of the greatest pieces of music ever. I don't think that that's confined strictly to film. I think it is a masterpiece of music on its own without being tied to Gladiator. And the fact that it's in the movie just makes it all the more real and amazing. And I absolutely love it. And that is everything I want to talk about with Gladiator. It is an astonishing movie. It is. I know all you're waiting for my rating. I know you're all waiting for my rating. It's a 10 out of 10. It can't be anything less than a 10 out of 10 for Smokey because it is a masterpiece. It's got very little wrong with it in my eyes, and I really adore it. I love it more every time I watch it. I've been watching it periodically since I was a kid, and it's really struck a chord with me every time I have. And the relationships with father figures always affects me quite emotionally when I watch it, and that's what the film is a lot of the time. It's a film about the loss of father figures, the love of father figures with Marcus Aurelius, the emperor, and it really is incredible and a really amazing, grand, historical epic drama. And I urge you all to watch it again. Keep watching it, never stop watching it. So that is my thoughts on Gladiator 1, the original Gladiator by Ridley Scott from the year 2000. What do you guys think of the movie? Do you love it as much as I do? Did you see the sequel? How do you think that compared to the original film? I want to hear all your thoughts, guys, in the comments below. And thank you for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. There's going to be more like this. And I'll probably put a post on YouTube letting you know what the schedule is going to be for the videos. I think I'll probably do 3 a week, and they will be probably put out on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I believe. So we'll have a few different series going, I'd imagine. I want to talk about my favorite movies. I'll have reviews for new movies as well, and there will also be movies that I talk about which are underrated gems. I want to have a section on underrated gems that I want to spread the word of. So that will be done as well. And that is what I'm going to end the video with for today, guys. And this is going to be a bit longer than the usual 10-minute videos because I wanted to talk a lot about Gladiator, my amazing, one of my favorite movies. And I really wanted to talk about it in depth as much as possible. And I really appreciate you watching, guys. You guys are awesome. So I really appreciate you, Smugglings. I'm going to end the video now. And I will see you guys soon. So cheers, guys, and bye-bye.